Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And for the record, every member of the town council is here. Cliff Gravier, our town manager, is here. Molly Daisy, the town clerk, and Will Wharton, our IT person. And I also noticed Susan Frederick in the audience, our building inspector. Welcome. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the ayes have it. The next item is approval of the minutes of the workshop and special meeting held on November 7th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? The ayes have it. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on November 18th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the executive session held on November 18th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Approval of the minutes of the workshop special meeting held on December 12th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The next item is approval of the financial report. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor. This report covers the budget through December 31st, 2022. We are 75% through fiscal 2023. After a slow start in the fiscal year 2023, income is rebounding. Real estate transfer tax is above normal, above the budget. Rental taxes are coming in strong, and interest rates, as everybody knows, has increased substantially. To date, to date, we have 100.7% of the budget compared to 114 this past year. On the expense side, our operating expenses are slightly higher than last year. We have already expended 75.7% of our budget compared to 74.1% this time last year. Recognizing that this report is unaudited, I respectfully move that the council accept and approve it as an unaudited report.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Next item is the approval of the tax adjustment list, number 2. Mr. Morris.
Mayor, you have a list of 24 homes that have their tax assessment changed because of either modification or a new construction. I respectfully request that we accept these changes as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Morris. Does anybody have any announcements? Okay, does anybody in the audience wish to say anything or say anything that, public comment that's not on the agenda today? Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is a report from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Boswell.
Thank you, Mayor. That one's not for me, I don't think. The commission did not have a meeting in December, so there's nothing to report on that, any action we took. Yesterday, however, the State Planning Board did grant us an extension on the 10-year plan to September 30th. And, that's more than enough time to have the plan sent to you for approval, public hearing and approval. So, are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boswell. The next item is a report from the Non-Residential Design Review Committee. Mr. Kilmer.
Thank you, Mayor. The committee met on 15th of December to review a request from Haley Burry, the owner of the new business called Treaty. It's located at 100 Garfield Parkway, Unit 9. The request is for a new wall sign and several door and two window signs. All the signs complied with both our signage ordinance as well as our non-residential design guidelines. So it was approved by the full committee.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kilmer. The next is a report from the 4th of July Parade Committee. Mr. Fry.
Yes, Mayor and Council. The committee met on January 10th with a large turnout. All preparations are going well, and we are ahead of schedule at this point. Lifeguard Manager Joe Donnelly has accepted our invitation to be honored as a parade grand marshal this year. One resident found herself blocked from leaving Bethany during the parade last year and almost missed a plane flight. To prevent this, we had some discussions, and the town has offered to send a code red to residents to inform them of what roads are closed during the parade next summer. We reviewed samples of our proposed cert, and all were happy with the results. And this is it.
Hey, that's nice.
Sand and sea in 23. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fry. When will they start going on sale? Okay, great, thank you. Report from the Stormwater and Flooding Committee. Mr. Califf.
Thank you, Mayor. A meeting of the Stormwater and Flood Committee was called to order at 10 o'clock on Wednesday, January 11th, with all committee members present, as well as a substantial group of town residents, as well as Salt Pond residents. It was a much greater group than we expected. Our town manager, Cliff Gravier, briefed all present on the status of the steel flat bladder dam, the beach replenishment and boardwalk crossovers, the town boring study, the potential loop canal dredging, future dredging with Denarec, and the associated possible upcoming Lake Bethany and Loop Canal bulkhead stabilization studies, which I believe we are discussing today. There were numerous questions, and all were very positive. It was a very good group, a very good meeting. We discussed the incorporation of the newly approved pervious ordinance adjustments 425-27 and 425-5, and the greening of Bethany initiative into the town's best practices, which the committee will be working on in the future. We discussed the development of a communication strategy and possible alternatives. This as well will be ongoing. We were lucky enough to have the Coastal Point at our meeting that day, and they have reported on our discussions in the most recent edition of the Coastal Point, which is out this week. We discussed the DelDOT Route 1 initiative, as well as the committee's following of other local and regional flood studies, including the recent South Bethany study, the Delaware approval of the Back Bay study, and the recently approved Water Resources Development Act led by Delaware's Senator Carper. The meeting adjourned at 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Any questions? Anybody in the audience? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Califf. The next item on the agenda is report from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We had our first meeting for a while on the last Friday at 10 o'clock. I wasn't there for I had a personal commitment, but I'd like Diane Fogash to who led that for me and report out. Thanks, Diane.
Good afternoon. As Mickey said, we met on January 13th in the morning, and we had an update from Mr. Gravier on the 330-page report on SR1 and SR26 speed limit study prepared by the DelDOT Chief Traffic Engineer. This study was requested by Bethany Beach, Sea Colony, Middlesex Beach, and the town of South Bethany Beach. The recommendation is to lower the speed limit on SR1 and SR26 from 35 to 30 miles per hour, year-round. We had an update from Sergeant Foley, and he reported on the bicycle checks over the summer. July 20th, there was 106 contacts. This was the highest number of contacts in 12 years. Previously, the highest contact was 86. However, that was beaten on August 15th, when 135 contacts with 97 front and rear lights were installed on bikes. Most of attendees heard of the bike checks through the police social media and Coastal Point. The August 6th bike check on social media generated 11,757 shares, likes, and comments. The coalition, Seth Hammond was with us from the Coalition for a Safer North Bethany. He was sharing information with us on what their conducts dealing with DelDOT and requesting to lower the speed limit on SR1 for the North Bethany area. Okay. We ended up, the discussion was on the WAVE implementation areas of focus. WAVE, once again, I want to mention, stands for the W is watch and wait, the A is assess, the V is verify, and E is engaged and entered. The committee wanted to thank Julie Malieweski and Sergeant Foley on the video that they produced on the focus of WAVE. And we hope that this will be actually increase awareness on bike and pedestrian safety, and we hope to screen it prior to movie night on the screen for everyone to watch. We also have active engagement areas that we were speaking of to market WAVE at town events, including pamphlets and raffle drawings. And Julie will be making a pamphlet for us to display and pass to merchants and other educational materials also to merchants, including in solicitation of local merchants for raffle drawings, social events and locations where we actively engage in the community in discussion with the goals of raising awareness. This could include intersections and where flashing pedestrian lights are utilized. A tentative kickoff of the program is for April. We also talked about liaison efforts with government and advocacy groups, other communities and coalitions, area bike groups and bike shops, realty groups, and the Chamber of Commerce. I also want to include and mention a letter that we received from Ann McKinney and Bill Birchfield with suggestions on options to explore regarding improving the safety of our residents and visitors. This will be put on our agenda for our next meeting, which will be in 4 to 6 weeks.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Fogash. Are there any questions?
Yeah, just one comment. Diane, thank you very much for jumping in. I had an unexpected situation I had to deal with, and but this is really an exciting effort, I believe, because we're really addressing some of the things we talk about are structural, changing speed limits. Obviously, we have a lot of initiative around the pathway, but this is really about also addressing behaviors, right? Really pressing the flesh, talking to people, helping them cross. What's the right way to cross? And so. This team is really pretty fired up about the opportunities we have. So, again, looking forward to the work to come. And again, Diane, thank you very much, and all the team.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is a report from the Budget and Finance Committee. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. The Budget and Finance Committee met on Thursday, January 19th to review the third quarter of the current year and to discuss the proposed budget for fiscal year 2024, which will begin on April the 1st. The results of the first three quarters of the current year are very good. Revenues should end the year at least $900,000 over budget, mainly from real estate transfer taxes, rental taxes, building permits, and fee revenues exceeding expectations. Operating costs are higher than budget due to inflation and increased wages required to keep this fully staffed. In the coming months, the council will be asked to amend the fiscal year 2023 general fund operating budget with a supplement between $100,000 and $200,000 to address those higher than anticipated operating costs. The first draft of the new budget for 2024 was discussed in detail. Townwide revenues are currently budgeted at $12.8 million, operating costs at $10.9 million, and capital and debt budget is at $1.1 million. The committee discussed changes to schedule fees, including increasing the hourly parking rate from $2.50 to $3 per hour and applying the same 20% into increases in permits and tickets, increasing property taxes from 0.19 to 0.196. This is a 3% increase. This would cost most of the property owners approximately $23 per year. Increase in some building permits. Fees that have not been adjusted for many years are under discussion, specifically where recent changes to the town code made permitting more complex and time-consuming by our operating staff. The committee is considering recommendation of an increase fees to charges for people who are not maintaining their property and violate town code. Some water department services will also be adjusted. The committee will meet again on February the 16th to discuss the second draft of this budget, and that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Are there any questions? Anyone in the audience with a question? Okay, thank you very much. And the next report is from our town manager, Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, Council, a couple of clarifications. Mrs. Fogash, thank you for chairing the meeting, and the whole process with the request for speed reduction is rather complicated and confusing. We contracted with a private entity, the traffic group, to create a request to go to DelDOT to ask the head engineer to lower the speed limit on, or to approve or process it through the DelDOT process to lower the speed on Route 1 and 26. So he didn't prepare it. We're sending it to him for his review. And one important point, it's always very topical, that Mr. Morris did not include in his report, is the fact that the Budget Committee also will recommend to the Town Council, as part of their budget process, that they increase hourly parking rate from $2.50 an hour to $3, and increase our base fine for parking from $40 to $50. This is in keeping with what surrounding communities are doing, what Rehoboth does, Ocean City. Dewey is in the process of raising their fees from $2.50 to $3 an hour, and I believe their fines are already larger than ours. In terms of my report, we know our beach conditions have not been ideal. We made a lot of entreaties to DENREC to try to help us open up our ramps, and about 3 or 4 weeks ago, DENREC went to the time, effort, and trouble to truck sand from the Fenwick Island parking lot up the beach and deposit it around 4 or 5 of the other ramps that aren't open. Right now, we only have one open ramp on the beach. They did that, again, weeks ago, piled it there, but have not come back to spread it so we can open up the ramps. That's because they're having their own set of personnel issues, and in addition to that, they're having issues with their own machines. So as soon as they're able to do that, they will spread it and we'll be able to open our ramps. The real negative here is that about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a significant berm on the beach. That berm has washed away, and it won't be long before the sand they have in front of the ramps that they're supposed to move will be in the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, on its way to Portugal. So it's an issue for us. Speaking of beach, we are on tap and on schedule for a beach replenishment process, and we picked up a little bit finer point on the information that we had to determine that the project should start in Rehoboth and Dewey in a March-April timeframe. The project will move south. These projects are always dependent on weather conditions and the companies that are doing the work, keeping their equipment and their barges functioning. In years past, we have seen projects get pushed back weeks, even months, because of those conditions.
It will not be unusual, I think, for us to actually see replenishment here during the summer season. It was prescient on the part of the July 4th committee to make their T-shirts Sand and Sea, because I think we're going to have a lot of sand to look at during the summer season this year. The Water Resources Development Act was just passed in Congress, as Mr. Califf mentioned, and Tom Carper and his great staff were instrumental in making sure there were some significant additions to that bill that impact Delaware. And one of the ones that, in my time here, I think will have a real impact on Bethany Beach is in past, you would only see the Corps respond to a major hurricane with major damage to replenish the beach or restore the beach. And this act is very specific to Delaware. Delaware's included in something that's unusual. And from now on, if we have a major nor'easter, the Corps will now also respond and repair the beach. So not only for hurricanes, for nor'easters. They will not come back to work on cumulative damage. It will have to be a major event. But again, that's a great thing for us, and it takes us to a much better place than we have been in the past. Julie Molesky, entertainment director, does a great job. And one of the things she does at the end of the season is does an events survey. A number of years ago, about 3 years now, we made a change in how we present and what we do with our bandstand. We took our performances from focusing on the weekends in the dead of summer, where the town is already full and people can hardly move, and we shifted them a little bit to midweek and also to the shoulder season weekends. And affirmation, I think, that was a good thing to do is her latest survey, which indicates that 65% of the people surveyed liked the concerts in the summer, 80% liked the weekend concerts in the fall, and 62% prefer the fall bonfires. We've reached a point in time where we're working aggressively on trying to hire seasonal staff. Right now, where we have the largest deficiency is in our police department. We need 17 positions for seasonals. We only have 2 to 4 people returning. The police department is aggressively recruiting, but employment issues, the lack of esteem, I think, that you see in a lot of college campuses regarding law enforcement, I think, is also impacting hiring for seasonal police officers. So that's an issue for us going forward. We always have issues, or have again over the last few years, in seasonal public works staff, and we're trying to get a leg up on that and working on that earlier this year. And Mayor, Council, that's all I have.
Anybody have any questions? I had one, just to clarify, that WRDA bill and the new authority given to the Corps of Engineers, had that been in effect, for a May storm, would they have been able to work to restore the beach at that time?
I think it was, I believe it was fairly clear in our conversations with officials today that had this been in place following that sustained event, they would have been able to repair our beaches.
Yeah.
So.
And right now, just to set they're not allowed to do that right now, and that's why we've been relying on DENREC to help rebuild some of the.
It's in the process. It's not reached where it
Right.
needs to be before. It's part of the actual core official program. Yes.
And that was something that was pretty amazing. It was pointed out to us today, too, for Senator Carper and John Kane to get an act specifically to help Delaware with these situations. It's unheard of.
There's a good bit in the bill that's
Yeah.
specific to Delaware and beneficial to
Right.
Delaware, but not unlike things that are being done in other places,
Right.
Louisiana and other places that have been at the forefront of,
Right.
of core attention and core work over the years.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for Mr. Gravier? Okay, great. So now on to new business. The first item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote on the Sussex County Multi-Jurisdictional All-Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Mr. Edmondson.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. At the risk of boring everybody, I'll read a document here that was prepared by our Assistant Town Manager, Terry Tiemann. About the hazard mitigation plan. The adoption of this plan update keeps Bethany Beach qualified to obtain all disaster assistance, including all categories of public assistance, individual assistance, and hazard mitigation grants available through the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act. Everyone on council has received the executive summary. You're welcome to peruse the 424-page document if you're interested. I have not done that. But I should point out that Bethany Beach, as well as most of the surrounding jurisdictions, participated in the development of this hazard mitigation plan. The only communities that did not are Bethel, the town of Dagsboro, and the town of Greenwood. Sussex County and participating jurisdictions developed the 2022 Hazard Mitigation Plan in conjunction with the 2016 Sussex County Hazard Mitigation Plan, the 2020 Continuity of Operations Plan, the State of Delaware Strategic Plan, and the State of Delaware All Hazards Mitigation Plan. Sussex County Emergency Operations was the lead agency for developing the plan update. At the beginning of the process, the consulting firm, the Olson Group, was hired to provide technical support to the county and all participating jurisdictions, again, of which Bethany Beach was one. The benefits of the hazard mitigation plan creates more resilient communities, reduced risks in insurance costs. It's also required for pre-disaster hazard mitigation grant programs and required for post-disaster public assistance and hazard mitigation grant programs. The goals of the plan: the Sussex County Hazard Mitigation Steering Committee developed the following mission statement for the Sussex County All Hazards Mitigation Plan and the following goals for hazard mitigation. Sussex County and participating jurisdictions will continue to adopt enhanced stormwater management practices, easy for you to say. Sussex County and participating jurisdictions will continue to adopt and enforce code and regulations designed to reduce the impact of natural hazards. Sussex County and participating jurisdictions will continue to retrofit and protect critical facilities and infrastructure from natural and human-caused hazards. Sussex County and participating jurisdictions will continue to enhance education and outreach strategies to improve the dissemination of information to the public regarding hazards, including the steps to reduce their impact. Sussex County and participating jurisdictions will continue to improve pre-event planning and preparedness activities. Sussex County and participating jurisdictions will continue to identify and implement sound hazard mitigation projects. The next steps: Sussex County has notified each participating jurisdiction, including Bethany Beach, that they should immediately begin their HMP adoption proceedings. And that is what we're here to do today.
So are you moving that we approve this?
I would move that we adopt the hazard mitigation plan as prepared, yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I just wanted to point out that this has been a long process. I noticed in the report that John Apple was on the committee when this started, so that goes way back. Terry Tiemann replaced him. And also Brett Warner, our Public Works Director, was very much involved, as was Susan Frederick, our building inspector. So a lot of work has gone into this, and it really shows, and I wanted to just commend them for all the work they put into it and thank them. Okay, before we take a vote, is there any discussion among council members? Anybody in the audience? Okay. There's a motion on the floor and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Edmondson. You read that very well.
It almost seemed like I prepared it, huh? That's why I gave Terry credit there at the beginning.
Well, you did so well. How about doing the next one, too?
All right. Spotlight on me situation here.
To amend the town ordinance, section 453-21F by removing it in its entirety. And council may elect to waive the first reading pursuant to chapter 45.5 of the town code. Mr. Edmondson.
So again, in the spirit of other people making me look smart, Susan Frederick gave me the background information on this, our town building inspector. She was made aware or discovered that, as many of you may or may not know, Susan does a lot of work to ensure that the town of Bethany and the residents of the town of Bethany get reduced flood insurance fees based on certain things that we do. So one of those things in our building code, we have a required freeboard, which is any new or significantly improved building is required to be 1.5 feet at least above the floodplain, the first living level. What that does is accounts for rising sea levels, accounts for errors in the look-back period on FEMA's flood maps, and just ensures that houses and structures are well protected from future flooding. What that code used to allow is that mechanical systems could be below that floodplain. So you can imagine a first floor entry might have light switches or electrical outlets below that floodplain. If they were made to be, FEMA will say this kind of thing a lot. They'll say, as long as you can make it flood protected. No one really knows what that means, and it put Susan in the awkward position of having to deny things that were not necessarily against the code, but weren't the best practice. We also were, because we had a code that technically allowed that, we missed out on some savings of the flood insurance Class A prerequisites. So we actually only got 75% of the credit instead of 100% of the credit. So with that background, what this adjustment in the ordinance would do would clear up those inconsistencies, would no longer allow outlets and light switches below the floodplain. All of those things would have to be at least 1 foot above the floodplain, which is in keeping with FEMA's 2021 addendum to their own code. So I'll give you the, Susan, how did I do there? Okay, good. I am a great parrot. That's what you need to know about me. Okay, so here is the code as currently written, or as proposed. An ordinance amending Section 453-21 of the Bethany Beach Town Code by eliminating 453-21 subsection F in its entirety. Whereas the Town Council of the Town of Bethany desires to amend Section 453-21F of the Town Code, be it hereby enacted by the Town Council of the Town of Bethany Beach, a majority thereof concurring in council duly met, that the Town Code be and hereby is amended as follows, assuming we approve this. Section 1, amend in Section 453-21 subsection F by deleting the entire paragraph and then inserting the following. All changes are set forth in bold. F, in special flood hazard areas other than coastal high hazard areas, Zone AE and AO, meet the specific requirements of Article 5. G, in all coastal high hazard areas, Zone VE, meet the specific requirements of Article 6. Roman numerals will get after you here. H, in a special flood hazard area with more than one designation, Zone AE and AO floodway, Zones VE meet the requirements of the most restrictive designation. There's a lot of mumbo jumbo in there, but basically we're going to comply with what FEMA is asking for. Synopsis, this ordinance removes the current Section 453-21 subsection F in order for the Town of Bethany Beach to maintain current class ratings.
And then, are you moving approval?
I move to approve the changes to 453-21F.
Thank you, Mr. Evanson. Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I'm assuming that anybody that violates this because they've already got construction is grandfathered unless they go back and make modifications. Is that correct?
So it actually doesn't impact really anyone, I don't think, at the moment. One note I didn't make is that this does not apply to commercial properties. So you may be aware that properties on Garfield Parkway, some of them are below the floodplain. There are different requirements for commercial properties versus residential properties. So basically, it's not going to impact anybody.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. I just wanted to make one point, too. I think we owe a lot to Mrs. Frederick. There are over 22,000 communities that are enrolled in the National Flood Insurance Program, and of that, I read a number somewhere that only 1,500 are in the community rating system. So I think we owe her a debt of gratitude for all that she's done to keep us up with that and to continue with that. Thank you.
Here,
We certainly have. Let's give her a round of applause.
She hates that.
I know. Thank you, Susan.
Okay.
Mayor, can I also recommend that we waive the first reading?
Yes. Okay, so that we didn't vote on it. did we?
This is the first.
Okay, we
yet.
have a motion on the floor and a second, and also a motion that we waive the first reading and just go right to making this an ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edmondson. You did a great job.
Thank you. I'm
Thank you, Mrs.
a
Frederick.
B+ reader.
You're a tremendous reader.
The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote on a contract from McCormick Taylor in the amount of $107,753.17 for the Bethany Living Shoreline Design, and that's the Lake Bethany Living Shoreline Design. Mr. Gravier?
I don't know if I can follow Mr. Edmondson, so. Then let him do it.
These thoughts are, yeah, these thoughts are your own, though. That's the difference. Yeah, okay, I got this.
So to orient everyone, because I know everybody studies the Bethany lab, probably endlessly. So here we are. Here is the Assawan, and here's the Loop Canal. This is the community of Lake Bethany. In between the lake and the loop, there is a spit of land. It's right here. It's a little over 1,000 feet on the loop side and about 800 on the inside and the lake side. That spit of land is deteriorating at an incredible rate and is probably the reason that much of the loop, at least until it gets to the saw pond, is silted. Because of that, and because we're losing it again at an incredible rate to the point in time that soon the lake will just open in directly in a large way into the loop, we have two projects underway, and both of them have some initial design work involved. I will tell you that we have picked up $100,000 from the state this year for some of this design work to offset the invoices and the contracts you see here, and the remainder will come from our general fund, capital fund. The first contract you have in front of you is for a living shoreline that's on the interior of the land spit, and that will, in all likelihood, be some form of a biolog. It won't be a hard surface, and I doubt it would be riprap, although that might be more lasting. The estimated cost for that construction is between $150,000 and $200,000, but the contract you have before you, again, is for design services, and that is for $107,753.17. If the council would like to move forward with that, a motion would be appreciated.
Somebody like to move that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the town approves paying the contract to McCormick Taylor in the amount of $107,753. I don't know why the 17 cents is in there, but for the Bethany Living Shoreline Design.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? I would just like to point out one thing on this, too, is that the grant that Mr. Gravier mentioned was because of Senator Hocker and Representative
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
So they had that money put into the bond bill this year, so we can thank them for that.
Yes, and we'll be back to ask for help on the construction.
Yes,
so
yes, yes, that's why we want to thank them.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else in the audience have anything to say? Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. And the next item on the agenda, discussion, consideration, and possible vote on a contract from McCormick Taylor in the amount of $111,174.42 for the Bethany Beach bulkhead design. That's the Loop Canal Bulkhead Stabilization Project. Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, Council, this, following up on what I previously said, this is the design of the bulkhead. The bulkhead is a little under 1,000 feet long. The estimated construction costs for the bulkhead, including a contingency, but not contract oversight on the part of the engineer, which for McCormick Taylor generally runs 10%, is $733,000. But the design contract you have here is for $111,174.42. If the council would like to approve it, a motion will be appreciated.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the contract to McCormick Taylor in the amount of $111,174.42 for the Bethany Beach bulkhead design.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any discussion? Any questions?
Other than it's really critical.
It is critical, yeah.
Really not a question about if.
Yes. Are there any questions from anybody? Okay, thank you very much. The motion and a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Gravier. And there's nothing else on the agenda, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Executive session?
I'm sorry?
Move into executive
We go into
session.
executive session?
Yes, but it's not on
Yeah.
this agenda.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
I'd like to make a motion, we move into executive session.